Hi again, welcome back to Indycar. My name's Gordon Ross. Today the transmission is coming from near Annisland, and the subjects today really are to do with two things. The first one is primarily to do with what is happening as a result of the European Union's recent decisions about how the Brexit transition period will work out. It took the European Union all of 2 minutes, all 27 nations, 2 minutes to decide what the transition period would be for the United Kingdom and what rules it would have to obey while it was in this 2-year transition period. At the top of the show, I've mentioned that they may have done us a big favour, and you might wonder what I'm talking about. Well, the European Union has told the United Kingdom that while it's in this transition phase of 2 years after the 29th of March 2018, that it must abide by all European laws and it must surrender itself to the jurisdiction of the European courts. Now, this is what I mean by them doing us a favour. The reason I say that is that you'll know from watching my programmes in the past that I've raised concerns about how vulnerable the Holyrood devolution settlement would be after the 29th of March, because when the repeal bill comes in, then the legal underpinnings which the Council of Europe and the European Union have had in place, which has cemented the position of the devolved assembly in Ireland, Wales and the Parliament in Scotland, would be removed at a stroke by the repeal bill. And because the repeal bill would essentially take back all of the laws and the jurisdiction of the courts of the European Union would disappear, we would have no protection in law to keep the devolution settlement as it is now, and so Holyrood would be in danger of closing. But because the Europeans are insisting that the jurisdiction of the European courts stays for 2 years, it's far less likely now that the repeal bill would have the effect of making Holyrood more vulnerable. The Europeans have thrown us a bit of a lifeline here, and it could well be, subject to legal interpretations, that Holyrood's position is protected for a further 2 years after the 29th of March 2018. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a legal expert, but it seems to me that if the jurisdiction of the European courts and European law applies to the United Kingdom for that 2-year period, then they can do nothing to dissolve the Holyrood Parliament. I hope I'm right. As I say, I'm not a legal expert, but I think the European Union has just done us a colossal favour. Second piece of news today concerns oil, and I believe there was a visit by the UK Energy Minister, whose name escapes me for the moment, but a woman from the Tory party, was in Aberdeen for the oil and gas industry conference. And at that she was quoted as saying that the United Kingdom intended to squeeze out every last drop of oil from the North Sea basin. Now, this is the first time I've ever heard the Tory government say something as clearly as that. Up until recently, we've been told that A, the oil is running out, or B, that it's worthless, depending on what's happening with the oil price. So as the oil price goes up, we're told that the oil is running out. If the oil price goes down, we're told that it's worthless. So basically, we've been told that oil is a terrible headache that Scotland really should just give this awful burden to England to carry on its broad shoulders. But now they're saying outright that they're going to drain the North Sea basin dry. They're going to squeeze every last drop out of that. They're determined to get the maximum amount of money out of Scotland's oil before they have actually sucked it dry. This tells me that they are no longer hiding the fact that oil is a massive £1 trillion treasure trove for the British state, but that it is the only thing that will probably keep Britain afloat through the recession, which is now looking more likely. Today, a leaked document from David Davis's department, the Department for Exiting the EU, revealed 3 different scenarios for Brexit, and in all 3 cases it meant recession. In the case of a hard Brexit, I think they were talking about an 8% loss to the European economy almost straight away. In other words, we'd go straight back into recession. There would be negative 8% growth. In other words, 8% shrinkage of the UK economy. That would throw us into a very deep recession for up to 15 years. The next best case scenario was a trade deal. Now, an ordinary trade deal would have produced somewhere in the region of, I think, about a 4% drop in growth in the UK, which would still push us into recession, but not as deeply, and only for about 10 years. Only, I say only 10 years. And finally, if we got the absolute best possible, softest, feather-bedded Brexit we could get, we would still have a 2% drop in our output. So in other words, growth would go negative 2%. And this again would result in Britain going back into recession again for somewhere between 5 and 10 years. So no matter which way the British government tries to spin this, it's obvious now that whatever Brexit happens, the UK economy is going to go into recession immediately as soon as it Brexits. If we have this 2-year period, which the European Union is going to give the United Kingdom to try and get itself sorted out, then we might be able to protect Holyrood for that 2-year period. But there is one caveat, and that is that the European Union has said it has the right to veto any trade deal that the UK attempts to sign while it's in the transition period. So in other words, Britain can try and sign trade deals with other people, but the European Union can say, no, you're not going to do that one at any point in that 2-year period. And I think the more you look at this, the more you think Britain is not driving this scenario at all. It's the European Union which sets the rules. It's the European Union which says what you can have. And now David Davis's leaked document this week reveals the truth, which is that Britain is going to go into recession no matter which Brexit deal it gets. So bespoke deals or not. A bespoke deal just means the best possible deal designed for that client. But the problem is they can't get a bespoke deal because the European Union isn't going to allow that. And that's obvious now from what the EU has said this week. So I think for all of us this is a good news story, because it now shows how powerless the Tories are in the face of the European Union's control over this situation. And the European Union has shown Scotland that it's prepared to keep European law jurisdiction through that 2-year period, which will give Scotland time not only to have a referendum this year and to vote to leave the UK, but it will give us 2 years to make our arrangements and settle things with the United Kingdom without our Parliament being undermined by David Mundell and his new phony parallel universe